Hello again and welcome back to The Front Row, a minor production of the First Congregational Church in South Pekin, where our intent is to bring snippets from our Sunday morning message into your week. We are culminating a week's worth of conversations around Sunday's message, our Easter message, and we're going to tie it all back into our current sermon series, The Disciplined Life, where we are talking about spiritual disciplines. So I wanted to leave you with three thoughts. One, celebrate the beauty of the gospel message, the Easter message, every single day. It is worthy of celebration every single day of our lives because it is the message of the cross, of Christ, of God's love. It ties everything together, and it is the place where I believe God wants us to live in resurrected life, redeemed life. The second thing, though, I encourage us to do is always, though, be aware of and even embrace the difficult parts of life, even where we fall short, where we're broken, where we're injured, where we're scarred, because it reminds us of our consistent and constant need for that salvation. And they walk in tension with one another. We've got this cognitive dissonance that we must ride as we mature in our faith and appreciate the need for both. But one of the ways that we are able to do that is through the spiritual discipline of solitude and silence. Now, again, we are scratching the surface of these spiritual disciplines. We are not going very deeply into them at all. But when we are walking this path, the difficult path of discipleship, we will often find ourselves alone. And one of the greatest fears of mankind, of humanity, is to be alone. I mean, you look at any kid who's just trying to fit in. One of the reasons that belonging is so important to us is because we don't want to be alone. And believe me, you know me well enough by now, if you're listening to this recording, that I'm all about community. I know the power of community, how important it is for our health and well-being. But another thing that is incredibly important for us in our health and well-being, spiritually speaking especially, is our ability to walk alone in solitude and silence. Because the general spirit of this world in our humanity is that we want to fill all silence. Silence is bad. Silence is scary. Being alone is scary. So I'm going to always have my earbuds in. I have to create noise, or I have to be a part of crowds and vibe and momentum and the spirit of just people everywhere. I need that energy. To be alone and quiet with God, that is a coveted skill set. It is a practice. It is a discipline, a spiritual discipline. Because when you are living this life, the way that God has called us to, which we're all on a journey of sanctification, we all do this at different levels, but when you are maturing down that path, your decisions and your behaviors are going to separate you from the crowd. The road is narrow and few find it. So when that happens, we need to be able to stand alone and to be confident in our relationship with God, knowing that God is with us and that we have the power of His Spirit. And it is in the discipline of getting in that space on a regular basis that makes us become accustomed to it and not unfamiliar to it. When we look at the fathers of the faith, the heroes of the faith, Moses was in the desert by himself. Moses was at the burning bush by himself. We could go through all the prophets, and you could think of Jonah's conversation with God. Think of the various prophets along the way and their wrestling with God. They often did that alone. When we look at the life of Jesus, He went into the desert for 40 days alone. He went off to a solitary place while it was still dark so He could pray alone. When He went up to pray just prior to His arrest and trial and crucifixion, He took Peter, James, and John with Him, but then He separated from them. He said, you guys pray. I need to go off and be with my Father alone. When Jesus was on the cross, He was alone. His disciples scattered. When we live this life, when we follow the path of Jesus, we will find ourselves alone. And in that time, we need to be strong and be even strengthened in our faith because we have been that way before. We have gotten alone with God our Father. And we have had communion and communication with Him. We have been able to be in silence before Him and just to be ministered to by His Spirit. And this is a relatively foreign concept in this world, as are most, if not all, of these disciplines. I get it. But I just want to leave you with that today. In the grand arc of the beautiful message of Easter, the gospel message, there is a tension to it that includes the very difficult week that led up to it. And without that dichotomy, we don't appreciate our ultimate need for salvation. So we have to walk in that. And one of the ways that we are strengthened in that walk on those days when it feels very lonely, on those days when people scatter, on those days when we are convicted and convinced of something, we may say it, we may act a certain way, and all of a sudden we find ourselves standing alone, we can stand tall. We can be encouraged. We can even be strengthened because we know we are not alone. Blessings to you. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye-bye for now.